Despite what their moms told them, they just aren't talented enough for radio. Unfortunately, anyone can have a show these days. Sean.
Well, I'm pretty hard to figure out sometimes. In fact, I can't even figure myself out sometimes, so don't you try to.
Joe.
You're an idiot and really a disloyal person.
This is the Cuse Militia. Those two unapologetically biased, orange-blooded homers, Sean and Joe.
It's the most bullshit thing I've seen in 30 years.
Welcome, orange men and ladies. Happy Thursday. This is the Cuse Militia with Sean and Joe. At Cuse Militia on the socials. Go there. Join the militia. Syracuse extends a 6-point halftime lead to a 16-point lead 4 minutes into the second half after a Joe Girard 3. And for once this year, a team is very cold from 3. The Hokies went 3 for 19. And the Orange take home the W 82-72. You'll hear from us. We'll hear from you a little bit in fan feedback. And we give you our picks as Syracuse hosts Notre Dame in the Dome this Saturday at 7 o'clock on the ACC network. You did not hear a pop top on a can, and I would have done it, but I didn't think it was right. Joe is not with us tonight, but fear not. We got Virginia Tech student, our boy, longtime friend of the show, listener, all-around good guy, Giovanni Heater. Giovanni, what's up, buddy?
Hey, thanks for having me. I thought about it too. I was like, do I bring a Pepsi or something on the show? And I just felt it would not be right because that is Joe's thing. And but we're gonna have a good time anyways, even though we will miss Joe.
Yeah,
I'll do my best to fill in.
Missing Joe tonight. He'll be back with the regular scheduled program. Hopefully Sunday. He had conflicting arrangements. In this always takes a back seat to family stuff. So he's doing stuff. Yeah, he's doing stuff with the family. I thought about for a second going at it alone, and I'm like, you know what? This might work out. The timing is just right for Giovanni to come on and talk because he's a Syracuse fan, living in Blacksburg, going to Virginia Tech. So let me ask you, he's rocking a Tech hoodie right now. And that's fine. It's fine. But I got to say, so now Syracuse pulls off a win, whether it be football, basketball, you walk around campus with your chest puffed out a little bit wearing orange, or you just put that thing on and try to blend in?
Well, so I guess this is like everyone always asks me, who do you root for when these two play? And everyone knows I grew up a diehard Cuse fan, grew up going to games in the Dome and everything. So this is how I always put it. I honestly root for whoever needs the game more. I thought last night Tech needed it more because they were on the verge of losing 5 straight, and like everything's starting to fall apart there. So last night I kind of rooted for Tech, but my heart, even as the game goes, like last year I thought Tech needed it more in football because they still had a chance at the Coastal Division, and after the first quarter, I was like, man, forget this. My heart's with Cuse, and I wanted Cuse to win that game, and I was calling that game. So I feel like I always end up rooting for Cuse, but the longer I go to school there, I'm sure that'll start to change. And I honestly, whoever needs it more to have a better season is who I usually root for.
Yeah, so Virginia Tech drops 5 in a row. I was a little nervous about this game. Their previous 4 losses were actually pretty tight. I think there was a 2-pointer, a 3-point game, nothing above 5. Nothing over 5 points as a losing margin for Virginia Tech in any of the past 4 games. And obviously all conference games without Couture since Boston College. That game went into overtime, and they're struggling. They're struggling without him. I don't know what this game looks like with him, but you got to imagine it's going to be a little bit better. They were really cold last night, and we'll get into all that. We'll get into it.
Okay.
I'm almost jumping ahead, and then I don't usually do that. That's usually a Joe thing. So let's do this. Let's head to the montage, and then we'll talk it out. Here's what Coach had to say following the win.
They did a great job of getting the ball inside, and it took us a long time before we made some adjustments and made some plays, keeping it out of there. I thought Jesse had some opportunities there that he didn't take advantage of, but offensively, he still isn't where he was in the beginning of the year. Even the second half, he had 2 or 3 times down there with a 6'5" guy on him, and he should finish those. I thought the guards were really good. Samir gave us a really good first half, but Joe and Judah were really, really good. Defensively, offensively, they were good. Joe was really good. One of the best games I've seen him play here. He was really effective. They're a really physical team. When they were down 20, they just started coming after us, and we didn't handle it as well as we should have. We missed a couple layups, but we had done a pretty good job defensively with the three-point line, and when it got to 10, 11, 12 there, they had a couple open threes, but they hadn't made one, and they missed them. That's a little bit lucky, and a little bit that they didn't establish any rhythm there. But they're a good team. The games they've lost, they could have won all of them. They could have won 2, 3, or all 4 of the games they lost. So they're a good team. They're better with Couture when he gets back. He's a really good player.
Jim, what do you think of Malik Brown coming off the bench, giving you the move?
He's playing starters minutes both games. It doesn't matter who starts. It matters who's playing and who's, he stays around the basket. That's what he does, and that's where the ball is, and that's where you get some rebounds. Benny wants to play out 15 to 18 feet, and there's no rebounds out there. And, Malik is doing what we need him to do.
Benny had just 8 minutes on the court tonight. How's he feeling?
I don't know. I'm here. I don't know how he's feeling. Go ask him. He's not happy. Nobody's happy when they don't play well.
Was there a reason you only played him 8 minutes? Is he still feeling any of the illness, or was it something on the court?
He didn't play well. You earn your minutes. If somebody plays well, they're going to play more minutes. That's the way it works. He's been sick. He's a little weak, but he had a really good day of practice. First day back, looked really good, but he's focused on shooting jump shots, and he's not a good enough shooter to shoot a lot of jump shots, and we need him to rebound and play defense, and he's capable of doing that, and he has to do that for us to be successful.
Peter Carey was on crutches tonight. What's the...
He had a procedure done, same as he had on his other knee last year. He won't be able to play. He'll take a medical red shirt this year, which is probably good for him anyway because he needs to get bigger and stronger. But it's the same thing he had on the other knee, and it worked. The procedure he had worked last year, so we think it will work this year.
Coach, a couple of possessions, Jesse Edwards didn't really step up. You had to talk to him about putting his hand up.
Yeah, whatever. There was a lot of those.
Is there maybe a defensive lapse in judgment for him?
Well, what do you think? They got 44 points inside. I don't think that's a good thing.
All right, the always entertaining Boeheim post-game press conferences. So, look, Syracuse turned it on in the second half, much like they've done all year. And you can say what you want about Coach and this team, but there's a couple things that they do week in and week out. And that is they keep their heads up and they never give up, and they always come out strong in the second half. The difference in this game was only being down by 6 at halftime instead of 20 really helped out. So, they come out strong in the second half, but it was all Justin Mutz. He was phenomenal in the beginning of this game. And as we talked in the preview for this, we knew that from past games and experiences that Justin Mutz is a problem. And he handled it. But they made some adjustments, and they were able to take them out. And with them going, 3 for 19 from downtown, that was it. They couldn't bring themselves back in. I think it was up to 22 points at one point.
And to Syracuse's credit, I think that this is the one game out of the last 5 that Tech has lost, where with Hunter Couture, I still don't think they win this game. Hunter Couture is a great three-point shooter. I mean, we saw it in the ACC tournament. That's why he was the ACC tournament MVP. Dropped like 35 against Duke. He couldn't miss a three. He's a great three-point shooter, but for a team to go 3 for 19 and shoot 16% from beyond the arc. And they hit Basile hit a garbage time one with like 2 seconds left. Before that, they were sub 10%, which is like insane. So I think this is the one game out of the last 5 that even if Tech has Basile, they still don't win. I think that's a lot of credit to Syracuse to how well SU played, and they put up 82 points. If you put up 82 points, you're in a good position to win no matter what.
And Syracuse not generally throwing up that many points anyway, but offense won it for them a couple games ago. They won it for them this game, and not for anything, Joe Girard has had a time the past few games, and a lot of people can you can have your criticisms of any player, and a lot of times they're legit, but Joe's biggest thing for me is inconsistency. All the rumblings. You've been on Twitter. You've heard it all. You've seen the feedback on our posts and things like that. But Joe, the past 4 games, 24 against Tech, 19 against Virginia, 28 against Louisville, 24 against Boston College. And he just is, might take him a minute to turn it on. I don't think he scored. It took him 10 minutes in the Virginia game to score. And it takes him a little bit to turn it on. But, boy, when he gets going, he gets going. And him being at the 2 with the way Mintz has been handling the ball and he's getting more comfortable, I just feel like those two, and that's unfortunately why we haven't seen a ton of Samir. And Joe was saying, a couple episodes ago, we want to see Samir on the floor, and there's times for him to come in. He comes in for 8 minutes, does a fantastic job, hits a 3, grabs a rebound, and gets a steal. So unfortunately, that's going to kind of be his role, I think, as long as Joe and Judah are playing the way they're playing. Because how can you take them out when they're playing like that?
Right, and the thing about Joe that last night was so telling. He did go 3 for 7 from downtown, but the bulk of his scoring didn't come from beyond the arc. He was showing what he could do off the dribble. He had a couple of and ones on the inside, and I really liked. He kept shooting those like free throw line area jumpers. He had a couple of them where he would drive and just kind of pull up. And I think last night Joe showed that there is more to his game than this chuck it up from way deep. The stuff that kind of frustrates Syracuse fans sometimes. Yeah. I think he showed last night that there's more to his game than that. Yeah,
I would agree. And, uncharacteristically, though, should be mentioned, he went 1 for 4 from the line, which is not like Joe.
Yeah.
Right? And their free throw shooting, and, thankfully, it hasn't had to come down to that too many times this year. They were good, really, to start the year. They've kind of struggled here as of late, but the thing is getting there, and they're +1 on the boards, which they should have been. I think they should have been more than that, but it's Syracuse, right?
Right.
So, the late in the, so you don't think they win? First, you don't think they win even with Couture? Now I think it's questionable, but we're playing ifs and buts right here. So,
here's the thing with Couture. Couture is, besides Mutz is probably the best defender. Couture is by far and away the best
shooter,
backcourt defender that this team has.
Okay.
And at times he can be the best shooter, but he is by far the best backcourt defender. Mike Young, Virginia Tech's head coach, has said that time and time again. This is literally how they go about when they're prepping for a team. Okay, who's the best backcourt offensive player that this team has? For Syracuse, a lot of the time it's either Judah Mintz or Girard. All right, Hunter Couture's on him, 100%.
Right.
So maybe Girard doesn't have the same 24-point production that he did last night if he's being faced up against Hunter Couture. But at the same time, I would say, if you bring in Couture, well, it gives Sean Padula and MJ Collins and Darius Maddox more opportunity to actually get rest. Because up to this point, Padula last night still played all 40 minutes. Those guys don't get rest. But Maddox only played 30 because Rodney Rice made his debut. And that's why Tech had Rodney Rice for the first time last night, who played 29 minutes in his first college game, which is kind of unheard of. It's not like you could say that if Couture comes in, other guys get rest and stuff. It just didn't work out that way. I don't think Couture makes enough of a difference where Tech, they were down by 20-something at one point. So, yeah, I think Cuse takes it either way.
Yeah, and Rodney Rice, it's first game, so he was nursing an injury or something from the offseason, right? Coming into the season.
Yes, he got hurt actually at the end of his high school career, and it was an ankle injury. And he's been rehabbing it. This was literally his Virginia Tech debut. So
4-star guy.
4-star, which for Tech, he was one of the more highly touted recruits they've had in a while. So it was pretty awesome.
Yep.
People are excited about him.
3 steals, I think, is probably his highlight. But
went 1 for 9 from the field, though.
Yeah, 0 for 5 from 3. But
yeah.
But moving on, I mean, Malik Brown didn't start. Okay, now this is always the controversy, and you heard Coach say there. It doesn't matter. I mean, we've said this came from Joe, but it didn't come from Coach. But it's funny that Coach says that and Joe's not here. It doesn't matter who you start, okay? Because
right,
Malik Brown is getting 34 minutes last night to Benny's 9. Okay. Right. And our 8.
And Chris only played 10.
Okay.
Wild.
And they're still starting. So I mean, what do you do? Now let's just talk your favorite 5, okay? Because and it's always going to be different. It's going to be different game to game. This is a matchup thing. But last night, what Coach had with Judah Mintz and Joe Girard, Justin Taylor, Malik Brown, and then obviously Jesse Edwards was great. Okay.
Yeah.
Jesse's been struggling, and there was times earlier in the year where Jesse's scoring. I think against Notre Dame last time he scored 22 or something like that. The last time we played, so
right.
Against good competition and ACC talent. So I don't know what it is about Jesse. He's just kind of off the radar a little bit, but he's still grabbing rebounds, which is what we need him to do. And you heard Coach talking about, Benny and what Benny needs to do, and the difference with Malik Brown. Malik Brown's just a more determined kind of scrappy guy. He's doing
maybe that's why Boeheim has him on the bench, right?
I mean, it could be.
All of a sudden you put a guy in the starting lineup. Maybe they get, and I'm not saying that he would. I'm just saying that maybe a guy gets complacent. And the thing that's keeping Malik playing like that, and you saw, it was the Pitt game, but Quadir Copeland just made the most of his minutes. Absolutely, and it forced Boeheim to keep him in the game. Yeah. And he ended up being super scrappy that game, pulling down those rebounds. Then he hits this 1-3, and that brought Syracuse back into that Pitt game. I think if you keep a guy like Malik Brown on the bench or Justin Taylor, it just fuels their hunger. And I don't know, maybe that's part of Boeheim's mindset at this point, with the couple of bad games that Benny and Chris have had in comparison to Brown and Taylor.
I just think that it could be, I mean, obviously it's probably a little bit of that, but I think too, Coach is just waiting for them to show us what they do in practice. I mean,
true. There's that too. Who practices better?
Yeah. And obviously he said Benny had good practice, but he yanked him. You'll get the start, but you're going to get the hook too, and the hook's going to come quick. Leash. I mean, yes, exactly. So Malik Brown is playing phenomenal basketball past couple of games, and he's getting 30 plus. He's been getting 30 plus minutes, 11 points, 8 rebounds, I'm off. That's not right. 12 rebounds. So his first double-double of the season. And just a scrappy player who is not afraid to get down in the mud. And he's one of those guys that's going to fight for everything. And
it's like Dolezaj.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
A little bit.
Like Coach said, without taking the hits. I mean, Dolezaj took the hits, bro.
That's true.
I don't know if anybody takes the hits like Dolezaj. I mean, Judah puts himself out there in some dicey situations, but Dolezaj, man, he was a glutton for punishment. That guy. But you got Malik Brown, who's developing before our eyes, and I think that he's been integral in the past couple games. And despite the loss against Virginia, it wasn't as bad as that could have been. And, this game started slow again. I mean, we're all at the point where we should be used to that, I think. But don't know what to, Benny was he's only what? The Louisville game? Was it the Louisville game that he was really good?
Yeah.
We're not that far. We're not that far removed from that Louisville game when he scored. No, it wasn't Louisville. I don't think it was Louisville. Let's see. Of course, I would not have this pulled up, but we're not that far removed from a game recently where he had his best game of the season, and it was Boston College, 16 points.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, and he had
in the dome.
He had 11 rebounds, so a double there. I think that was his second double of the season or something like that. But he was great, and you think, okay, well, Benny's that's it. The switch has been flipped, but not the case. So I don't know what to do. Coach doesn't know what to do other than put Malik Brown in. But thankfully we have a Malik Brown. So, and Justin Taylor's not doing a terrible job at the 3, I think. As he had that one game too, that was Bryant game, I think, when Judah went out, that he just went off on. But
yes,
I don't know. He refuses to rebound, and he's always getting ready to receive an assist. But anyways, so Peter Carey, that I missed. Okay, so we're not going to see Peter Carey the rest of the year. He had that same thing coming out of high school, and we talked about it here, and we were a little apprehensive of what to even expect with him. And, well, there you have it. He's getting the other knee operated on, and hopefully next year he'll get a medical red shirt, and he'll be fresh, 6'11", 200 pounds.
I don't think it would. I don't think he really would have played regardless.
No, I don't think so either. Not with Hema. But that reminds me too. Hema, dude, plays 5 minutes. He's got 3 fouls.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes,
Jesse Edwards with 4. So there's fouls to give at the center position, but
Tech had that problem too, though. Tech had Syracuse. There was a point where Tech had, I want to say 6 or 7 fouls, and Syracuse had yet to give a personal foul in the second half. And I was like, how? Tech got into bad foul trouble because Mutz and Basile both had 3. And they both ended the game with 4. And Padula, you're at that point you're forced to be best on-ball defender if Couture's out at the top. He had 3 fouls, so Tech experienced that too. There was literally a point where Syracuse had like 6 or 7 fouls less than Tech in the second half.
Yes.
And it all kind of evened out. But Cuse entered the double bonus with 5 minutes left.
Dude, so when I noticed that discrepancy, I don't know how many Tech had, but Syracuse was already in the bonus. Uh-huh. And then if you remember right, it was whistle, 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 whistle.
Right.
Like, there was no whistles. There were very few and far between, and all of a sudden it was whistle, 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 whistle. And it's just the inconsistency of the officiating. It's just frustrating. Like, I almost don't care how it's called if it's going to be the same on both ends of the floor. And that's just it. It's like you get lazy whistles, and then you're like, oh, well, the discrepancy's 8-2. Well, we got to even that up. So We're just going to start calling everything all of a sudden. And it's like the guys don't even know how to play. And that goes for both ways too. There was times where Tech got whistled, and I thought, I don't know.
There were a couple, and the Dome let them hear it too, where I remember one in particular, fast break. I don't remember who was going up for the layup, but Darius Maddox put his hand on the guy's back, like ever so lightly, and they called an and one on the transition layup, and everyone started booing. I was like, wow. I even said on our broadcast, and usually we don't talk about the refs on our broadcast just out of respect, and I was like, that was a tic-tac foul right there. Virginia Tech just kind of got blessed with one on that.
Yeah, well, they got blessed with a couple. I think Syracuse probably got blessed with a couple, but the problem is the inconsistency. So,
right.
Anyway, Syracuse will move to 11-6 and 4-2 in the ACC, and they're still in good shape. They're like a game and a half out of first or something in the ACC. Which we've got some tough games coming up. Miami, UNC. Got to play Virginia Tech again in Blacksburg, and then UVA again. So, but that's at home. So, and then of course Duke later on, and Clemson, and Pitt again. So it gets brutal. But I'll take what I could get right now. I'm happy with it. I meant to mix a little fan feedback in. So you know what? Let's just separate it quickly. Do some fan feedback real quick, and then we'll get into our picks.
Sounds good.
hear from you, the loudmouths from the Loud House.
All right, you guys know what to do at the end of every game. I ask for your thoughts on that game. You leave them. We talk about them here. I know it was a late one last night, or a little bit late anyway. And, a win. It wasn't an exciting win, but, Virginia Tech made an effort at it. They did. I would be lying if I didn't say that their press and us trying to break the press didn't make me a little bit nervous. And there were some times where I felt like Virginia Tech missed some opportunities to really probably make some big plays during that, and thankfully they didn't. Top fan, Jesse, on Facebook. Glad Malik been trending toward more playing time. He earned it. Really like the Joe Mintz, Benny, Malik, and Jesse lineup. Good defense helps us get easy offense. Yeah, like I said last night, for me, it was that lineup, but with Justin Taylor in there. And Justin Taylor didn't do a ton in 30 minutes, but 10 points, a couple rebounds, and a block. I mean, I don't know.
And he's a threat too. They have to play him outside because he can shoot.
Yeah, they do.
It opens everything up.
2 for 3, so
yeah,
not bad. Top fan Dave on Facebook. If we had any chance at 19 regular season wins, this was a big one. We're still not a finished product, but heading in the right direction. Love the accidental Orangeman reference on the broadcast. Yeah, they throw that out there by accident once in a while, and I didn't notice it, to be honest with you. So, look, we have to get these wins as Syracuse fans. We have to have this was a quad 2 win at home, which is good, and we got to get the ones we can get, because there's a lot out there, and we got to snag a couple that we shouldn't. But as long as we're doing what we're doing, I feel like we'll be in good shape, and we'll see what happens. I mean, at the beginning of the year, if you told me they had a shot like this at this point in the season, we're more than halfway through now. I don't know if I would have believed you.
Yeah. I agree. And it's crazy. Yes. If you told me after losing to Bryant, like Colgate, whatever, because Colgate, I was like, all right, they're kind of decent. It stings, but it's so early, whatever. But after losing to St. John's, Bryant, and then just getting absolutely demolished at Illinois, I was like, wow, we are not a good basketball team right now at all. I even had the feeling, I was like, this might be one of the worst I've seen, or it might be the worst I've seen assembled. Like, I haven't seen them lose that bad like that. Then they just turned it on. Like, I don't think anyone thought they had a shot at Notre Dame. You win out the rest of the non-conference. You beat Cornell. I mean, they almost won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It would have been 8 in a row if they didn't lose to Pittsburgh. And they almost won that Pittsburgh game. They were a shot away from winning that game.
Yeah, and down, what were they down? 23 or something like that, something stupid.
Yeah, came all the way back, took care of business against BC and Louisville. So, yeah, you needed that Virginia Tech one, but like they're 4-2 in the ACC, and I don't think people understand how difficult that actually is to do. And your one of your losses is to a Virginia team that is ranked almost in the top 10 in the country, like a very good Virginia team who just dismantled North Carolina the other night. Like, that's not even a bad loss, and you only lost it by single digits. Yeah, so I think Cuse is looking pretty good in the grand scheme of things.
It was a quad 1 game, that game, and it's not going to get. It's probably not going to get worse. The one thing I will say about this game, though, is that I kind of hope that the Hokies go on a little bit of a run to keep this thing a quad 2, because if they drop in the net rankings anymore, it's going to be a quad 3, and then now we're talking about an absolute game you had to win, and not kind of a trophy win there. So I don't know what Couture's timeline looks like, but I guess it's a left elbow, right? So
he is, yeah, it's a elbow bruise, I guess. He's practicing fully with the team, so it's. To me, it's like weird that he's not playing because he's fully practicing. And then the other thing is I mean, it really is. Of course, anyone's going to say this, but it really is a completely different team with him. I mean, they were 11-1, ranked in the top 25. They beat North Carolina. Like they were doing great. And then Couture gets hurt, and they just fell off a cliff. It's a completely different team without him. So the sooner they get him back, the better they can hopefully try and catch up a little bit here, and hopefully it'll look good for Cuse as far as getting that win. But yeah, it's a different team without him. So it really depends when he comes back or not.
Top fan Michael on Facebook. Congrats to Malik, first of many double-doubles. Great to see multiple players with double-doubles. Jesse in one game. Feels like it doesn't happen very often in recent years. Great team effort all around. When was the last time we had a really decent center? I mean, we always refer back to Raheem Christmas. But, I mean, it's been some time. So,
honestly, that was probably the last
I know.
real good one.
I know. It's sad. We used to have those guys all the time, even in your days. Like, they got the Onawakus, right?
Yeah. Oh, so, yeah. If he didn't get hurt, we'd have 2 national championships.
They kept that a secret. I remember they kept that a secret that year, so we'd still get the 1 seed, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, anyways, yeah, I mean, look. Jesse's got to kind of get it together a little bit, but he's still really effective. I know coach is way harder on him than I'm going to be, but when you're grabbing 13 rebounds and you're scoring 13 points, I'm okay with that. Obviously, only 2 blocks would be my biggest disappointment with Jesse yesterday. So,
yeah. I mean, he still scored 13 points. That's not a bad night by any means.
It's not, but it's just the expectations of what you expect is a little bit higher on the point end because he was scoring at will quite a bit in the beginning of the season. So real quick from Patrick, totally different team when Malik Brown and Justin Taylor get some minutes. I agree, but I'm always hesitant to say, okay, well, that should be the lineup because it's just a matchup thing. We thought going into this game, this was a good matchup for Syracuse regardless. And, it turns out it was, but it's going to be a constant chess game all year with that.
I think it depends on the matchup and what you're looking for. First of all, Benny's shown that he has the capability to play very well. So it's harder to say, we're going to bench this kid.
Oh,
he's
absolutely.
shown that he can play well.
Right, yes.
And then secondly, well, what are you looking for? Who are you playing? What's the matchup? Because if you need 3-point shooting, then you want Chris Bell on the floor instead of Malik Brown because Chris Bell's a way better 3-point shooter than Malik Brown is. So it really depends on what you need, what the other team's offering, and what the matchup is.
Syracuse always needs rebounds.
Well, if you need rebounds, Malik's your guy.
Yeah, right. So they always need rebounds because it's been years they've just been terrible. Right. And I think that's been a problem. I mean, I remember years ago, at least 3 seasons ago, with us like tracking the rebounding where Syracuse was in the nation every game, and they were terrible. They've been terrible. We stopped doing it because they hover towards the bottom. But they sneak a couple out if they can be +1, +5, something like that. They're not terrible. At Oil Cuse, we are good again. I've been telling y'all Brown is good. Was Benny still sick? Can we make the NCAA tournament? I think we have the talent to make a run. And the thing is to get in the tournament, right? Because no one's really going to be familiar with us. Plus, if we stay healthy, we're going to be a force, I think, by then. I do feel like this team's they're just getting a little bit more comfortable. But, there's some struggles. Like I said, I expected the UVA game to be a little bit more lopsided. And Syracuse hung in Charlottesville, and it wasn't awful. It was about what I expected. But, yeah. I think Benny was not sick anymore. Apparently, he might have been a little bit, maybe feeling something, but he had a good practice. So I don't know. And can we make a run? I think we can, but we got to get there, and that's the first step. So
I think the thing holding them back is the non-conference. That's a bad non-conference.
You think so though? Really? I mean, what is
the Colgate loss isn't as bad as people think. The Colgate loss isn't as bad as people think. Because Colgate's probably going to win that conference.
Yeah,
if all goes well for Syracuse, but that you shouldn't have to play Richmond to overtime, and they look at those things. The St. John's loss is fine, but St. John's is not doing that great at the moment. The Bryant loss is tough.
They're 12-6.
Yeah, you needed that Bryant. It's at home. You shouldn't lose to Bryant. And then Illinois, again, it's the fashion that it happened. It's not that you lost to Illinois. Like, that's fine if you lost by single digits or even by 10 or 12 or whatever. Like, they got dismantled. They lost by 30. That's tough. That stuff doesn't hold up well.
They're not ranked anymore.
Right.
And they're 11-6 right now, 11-5 right now.
Right.
They're 8th in the Big Ten. Bryant is, I think, 11-6 right now. St. John's isn't doing great. And to be quite honest with you, Colgate's 11-5, or excuse me, 11-7. So out of it's not great. So those aren't good losses.
And it's like, and like, just to compare it to Tech, like, I honestly feel that, man, if Syracuse only had Tech's non-conference, they'd be fine, because in Tech's non-conference, they beat Penn State, which is a quad 1 win right now. Their one loss in the non-conference was on the road at Charleston, who's ranked in the top 25. They beat Minnesota. They beat Dayton. They beat Oklahoma State. Like, they have just better wins, and they don't have any bad losses. Their one loss was to a top 25 team. So, like, if you're Syracuse, I would kill to have that non-conference right now. And it's just a shame that the team took a second to gel, because if they were playing like they are right now, I don't think they would have lost any of those games, to be honest.
Out of all those games, despite the Colgate stuff of recent years, I want that Bryant game back so bad.
Yes.
Because, first of all, I just can't stand Grasso, and I just can't stand that team. And it's just that one left a bad taste in my mouth. Poor decisions all around. I would have liked to seen a better game there. Let's do a couple more real quick. We'll get into Notre Dame. At Cuse Hoops 97. Malik Brown is the future. That Benny Edwards Brown rotation was cool. However, appears Benny is not in a good place with the program. Well,
I wouldn't say that.
We exactly. We know what coach is doing, and it's worked. It's worked, but it doesn't seem to be working that good right now. But it has worked. But he's not. He's at the age where he's going to say whatever the hell he wants anyway. So it doesn't matter. He's not trying to hurt feelings. He's just trying to be honest. Like, you're not playing good, you're going to get pulled. He's in a good place with the program, and we know that because he's still having good practices, and he's getting put on the floor for the tip-off, right? And by the way, for the second half too, it just got yanked quick. So I don't know what the Benny thing is. It's almost like you've been doing this for a while now. When you're talking football, there's so many different aspects to talk about. When you talk about basketball, it's like we just keep focusing on the same things all the time. And it's just so frustrating because at some point you run out of things to say about it, right? So like I don't know what to tell you. The dude's just he's got to put more effort towards it. It just seems like from my perspective, it seems like he wants to show his talent on the shooting end of things, and he's not doing the things that he needs to be doing to help the team win and to be a good teammate. That's how it looks. I don't know if I'm not saying that's his intention, but that's to me how it looks.
I don't think, though, that I think
we know
to say
he's talented,
that there's an internal problem within the program and his relationship is with Boeheim is being tattered. Or I don't think that's it at all. I think Boeheim's not even trying to teach him a lesson. Maybe more than anything, light a spark.
Light a spark.
Or more than anything, like maybe we're reading way too far into it. And period, Malik Brown was playing better, and so you play Malik like. Maybe in next game it could be completely different. If Benny knocks down a couple of those shots and maybe pulls down a board or two, it's a different story. Yeah. So it can change. It can vary game to game. I don't think there's anything internal to worry about at this moment in time.
And that brings us to this. At No Blanchard 44, if Malik doesn't start next game, we riot. keep your powder dry. Keep your powder dry. I mean. Like Joe has convinced me. I don't really care who starts. I care who plays the game and how they do it, right? Okay. The all-time series between the Orange and Notre Dame sits at 32-23 in favor of the Orange. The last time we met Notre Dame a few weeks ago, 62-61 win for Syracuse at Notre Dame. Mintz, Gerard, Edwards, Bell, and Williams are starting 5. Edwards with the 22 points I mentioned earlier and 16 rebounds. Gerard with 20 points in that game. Since playing the Orange, the Fighting Irish have gone 3-6. They're 1-5 in conference play. The one ACC win coming last night against Georgia Tech 73-72 win in overtime. Dane Goodwin led his team last night to victory with 19 points. Notre Dame, despite losing, despite the losses, they're a decent three-point shooting team, 37.7%, and they've got some shooters. And there's, what's his name, Leshevsky and Goodwin, as I mentioned. But they're...
Well, Tech was too until last night. So.
That's true, too. And we're just not used to that. So I
don't think people realize how hard it is for a team to come in and shoot in the dome. But it's like in the Final Four that happens because you're playing the depth perception in a football stadium. They spend extra time working on that. Like, a lot of the time to put this, like, this is like kind of like an inside scoop thing. Tech got there the day before the game, immediately after checking into the hotel, went and did shoot around at the dome. Then again, shot around the next morning, then shot around afternoon, then shot around a third time.
Maybe they were tired,
right
Gio.
Before the game. What's that?
Maybe they were tired.
No, I think it's that they were trying to get used to that. I don't think if Tech's going to play at UVA, they're doing shoot around the night before, the morning of, afternoon, and then again before the game. I think they were trying to get used to shooting in the dome. Mm-hmm. Especially for guys, they have so many young guys that have never played in the dome. Tech hadn't played in the dome since 2019.
Okay.
So, I could be wrong on that, but I think teams can struggle to shoot in the dome, especially if guys are there that have never played there before.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. We've heard a little bit of the depth perception of shooting from deep there. And, look, sometimes we just, like Coach said, okay, when we're talking about guarding the three-point line last night, I don't know if it was so much that as that just Virginia Tech just didn't have a good shooting night. They just didn't. They had some open ones at the end. They had chances to knock down, and they just didn't do it. And Padula had a bad night all around. He's not that, you expect a guy like him to hit more than what he did.
Yeah, he's averaging 17 points a game, the team's leading scorer. I mean, Tech cut it all the way down to 10. And then they missed 3 open threes. And Boeheim even said, they were open shots.
Yeah.
The Tech just didn't hit them.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Well, the one thing I'll say about this Notre Dame game before we just get into picks here, because there's not much that's different from this team as before. They came in 6-1 when Syracuse went and played them, and they lost a close game. The games have been tight with Notre Dame, no matter where they're played. Yep. And I kind of expect the same thing. But Notre Dame is 166 in the net rankings right now. So it's a quad 4 game. And this is, you want to talk about a must win early in the season. And just to piggyback on what Gio was saying about the non-conference schedule, this is one that would show up really ugly. If you're on the fence, if you're on the bubble, this is showing up ugly. You have to have this game at home. It's Saturday at 7:00. I expect, if you despise Notre Dame, if you just can't stand Notre Dame the way I do, then you'd be there making some noise. And I just feel like Saturday at 7:00 is a little bit of a tall order, but get there and make some noise and be disruptive, and we'll see what happens. But how do you feel about this team? They start strong. They've struggled ever since Syracuse beat them. They've been struggling. I mean, it is what it is. Ever since they hit conference play, bro, they've been struggling too. So, and before that, but I don't know what it is, and I haven't watched enough of them personally to diagnose anything, but. Lost to Marquette, lost to Georgia, which Georgia's a decent team. They're 12-4 right now. So, but you look at the losses to Florida State. I mean, that's not gonna look great on their resume. So, I don't know, anything to add to Notre Dame as far as what they've been doing.
Well, I think first and foremost it'll be kind of cool to see J.J. Starling make his dome debut.
He
played. I mean, yeah, we already played against them, but now he's coming home. He's playing in the dome. Geez, you'd hate to see, if you're a Syracuse fan, that light a fire under this kid's butt, because he's already dropping almost 13 points a game. He's their second leading scorer. So I could see him go out there and drop close to 20 just because, if you're coming home with it was like last night I grew up in Syracuse and I got to call a game in the Dome, and it was like there was just an extra special feel to it. I can't imagine on a different level if you're an athlete.
Were you there last night?
Yeah, we called the game for our student radio and for.
So where are
Tech.
you now?
I'm home. I'm in Syracuse. I'm going back to Blacksburg. Yeah, I'm going back to Blacksburg this weekend.
Oh, wow. Dude, much appreciate you taking time at home, man, to do this.
Oh, of course.
Jeez, I didn't know that. Wouldn't have bothered you.
No, I'm glad. Okay. I'm glad you hit me up. But JJ being in the Dome could be something. Other than that though, Dane Goodwin, he's a pretty good shooter. I mean, he's shooting the ball 44% from 3 and 45% from the field. It doesn't get more consistent than that, to be honest with you. So, I think Syracuse is the better team, but again, Notre Dame is a team that plays tough defense too. They're going to keep it to a lower scoring game. I don't think Syracuse can drop 82 again. That's just a tall task.
Yeah.
But I don't see it as like a trap game. It's at home too. I would feel a lot worse about it if we were at Notre Dame again.
I would too, and I was glad to get out of there with a win and have that game be behind us. And I wasn't, to be honest with you, I wasn't looking forward to this one on the schedule, just being what it is. So, just because these games always take a little bit of life out of you. I mean, let's be honest. So, for me, look, I think they win this game because they have to win this game, and I feel like
Notre Dame or Cuse?
No, Syracuse. Syracuse. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yes, Syracuse. They both have to win this game. Yes,
that's
absolutely.
what I'm saying. They both need this.
Yeah. Good point. But for me, it's going to be way worse for Syracuse to lose this game than Notre Dame. I mean, let's be honest. Notre Dame is. There are a few losses away from looking to next season. I mean, let's be honest. You know what I'm saying? Right. Syracuse is not. Syracuse, I think, just has more to play for in this and to not have this blemish on their record. So, last game, like I mentioned, 62-61. I think they score a little more. I'm going to say 72. I'm going to say 72-70. Syracuse.
Okay. And you stole mine.
Did I really?
Yeah. No, I'll switch it up. I'm gonna go 70, and I'm gonna say 65. Free throws at the end, just kind of pull it apart. But it's closer than that the whole way. And honestly, I think Cuse ends up having to come back a little bit at the end too. We know Syracuse has been a second half team. They've played better in the second half. You especially saw it at Virginia. They trailed by as many as 23 and cut it down to just a couple of possessions away from being.
Yeah, they made a run.
They made a run. I think they have to make a run. I think Notre Dame wins the first half. Cuse comes out firing in the second half. Cuse is down by 5 to 6. And that's the thing. When it's a low-scoring game, it never really gets too far apart as far as the gap goes. But sometimes 5 points can feel like 20.
Yeah.
Depending on how the game's going. I think it's one of those.
It's definitely not a comfortable lead in a game like that.
Right. So, I think Cuse is down by like 5, get things together in the last 10 minutes, and end up winning it at the free throw line, 70-65.
Does Joe Girard continue with his scoring stint? I mean,
I think he has to.
He has to, right?
The reason I say yes, he does, is because now he just showed me and everybody that he doesn't have to do it. If he's cold from 3, he has other ways he can do it.
He's multi-dimensional.
He's hitting those mid-range. He had a handful of nice drives, a couple of and ones. And the crazy thing is, too, if he would have hit his free throws, he would have had more points. He missed 3 free throws out of the 4 that he shot. So he could have had 27 points.
Yeah. And Judah's just got to be doing Judah. And the thing about him is he's always consistent. There's not a moment I've sat here and been like, I wish Judah would play like he did against whatever. No, it's just right there. And
the one thing I wish about Judah that I think holds him back, especially from like the NBA game, is he can't hit a 3. He's not a 3-point shooter.
He's not, but the
nowadays you have to be.
I understand that, and maybe that keeps him here longer, and I'm fine with that.
I bet he'll still leave. He just won't. He'll just be in the G League, unfortunately.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I mean, guaranteed money, and to be able to do that, yeah, of course. So, and that's the world we live in now. It's just different. But I hope, just for the sake of argument, that he stays another year and doesn't get too good. We just want him to be, we want him trending up, but we don't want him, going completely vertical on us. So
right now, what is sports turning into if we're asking our players not to be too good? Even in football, I would say the argument is in football they're not going to leave for the NFL. No, now they'll just transfer out. Look at Jihad Carter and Deuce Chestnut.
Damian Alford, by the way, took himself out of the portal today. He did. Nick Monroe is gone to Minnesota. And, I saw that. And he's going to be co-defensive coordinators there. He's going to be a co-defensive coordinator. And, that doesn't surprise me. It's a promotion. So my point of even mentioning this is, because I was going to blow by it, but is that Syracuse football in particular is a stepping stone for coaches, but it is a development program for the players. They're taking 3 stars, turning them into 4 stars, and then they're leaving.
Yeah.
So guys, you got Deuce Chestnut going to LSU.
That was a punch in the gut. Those two leaving, one's going to Ohio State and one's going to LSU. That makes me like, wow. So if we don't have the money, the NIL money to pay these guys, anybody that's good is just going to leave.
John Wildhack's asking for people to donate to collectives.
Yeah,
that's like, come on, bro. Why don't you donate?
The game is changing. The sport is changing.
Yeah,
it's insane.
And not for the better, I don't think. I think it's better for the athletes, but it's definitely not better for fans, especially for schools like Syracuse. They just geographically don't hold the power that some of these other places hold.
It's bad for Syracuse, yeah.
Yeah, it's bad for Syracuse. And
it's good for schools like USC. You're in the craziest NIL market you could ever be in. You're in Los Angeles.
Yeah, there's money all over the place in places like that.
Or Miami. It's
Miami,
good for schools
exactly.
and cities.
Yeah.
Even like Georgia Tech, being in Atlanta, I wouldn't be shocked if Georgia Tech with the right coach all of a sudden is decent in a couple of years. I'm serious.
Well, I'll tell you what. You bring up Miami. That's the spot, bro. That's the spot. If I'm a kid and I got collectives after me, Miami? Okay, I can do that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But Ohio State's the prestige,
Yeah.
So, not exactly the best environment. But anyway, I want to thank you, Gio, for coming on, buddy. Really bailed me out tonight, and we love you. We've had you co-host just playing around with me, you, and Joe before, but this ran pretty damn smooth, pretty awesome. So
yeah,
I really appreciate it. And had I known you were home visiting your parents, I feel like a jerk, but I wouldn't have bothered you.
I've been here for a month. It's all good.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't care then. All right, buddy. Well, look. We are going to check out now. I appreciate all of you for listening. Thank you so much. If you would, go ahead and give us a review on iTunes if you feel so obliged. If you got something nice to say it. If you don't, then just never mind. But I want to thank Gio again. And this time, for Gio, I'm Sean. We're out.
Peace.
There we go.